So I wasn't awake for the Super Bowl last night. Well, I go to bed probably halfway through it anyway, and I'm not a big football person. So, but this morning, the first thing I pulled up was Bad Bunny's halftime show, and as I watched it, I realized pretty quickly it's not just something you watch, right? It's something you sit with and you absorb. So he starts out walking through sugarcane, these tall green stalks, and workers in pava hats, domino games, street stands, the ordinary life of an island laid gently across the most watched stage in the US. Last night, it didn't feel like a set. It felt intentional, like a choice to center everyday life, not spectacle for its own sake, but meaning. And somewhere in that first sweep of the camera, I heard the coqui in my mind, that small tree frog whose song fills the night, that thin, high sound that for the short time I was there used to lull me to sleep. A small, steady lullaby I didn't even know I still carried. Because he wasn't just performing music, he was carrying memory, walking through it, holding it up in both hands and offering it to millions of people who might not even know what they were being given. And he moved through that landscape like a dream, but it wasn't only Puerto Rico, it was about anyone who has ever wondered whether their full self is welcome in a country that keeps insisting it belongs to everyone. He didn't step away from the depth of his roots. He didn't sand them down to be easier to swallow. He let them stand, specific, grounded, unmistakably his. I mean, even if you didn't understand a single word of Spanish, the meaning was everywhere in the sugarcane, work, history, labor, in the elders, continuity and care, in the movement through everyday life, dignity. The symbolism didn't require translation. It spoke in gesture, in image, in rhythm. It said, this work matters. These lives matter. This culture carries weight. Right? And high above the field, a message burned across the screen. The only thing more powerful than hate is love. And in his hands, a football that read, together, we are America. So read quickly, those words could pass like any other Super Bowl slogan, right? Another phrase rolling by between ads, but I felt them land in my chest like a heartbeat because right now this country feels splintered and brittle. And so much of this moment is ruled by fear of the other, fear of change, fear dressed up as order and tradition, fear that fixes itself on black and brown people simply for the act of existing in public, in culture, and in power. And that's what made this performance feel like a crack of light in a dark room. You know, we know there were voices calling for a different kind of show, a softer, safer fantasy of America, one that doesn't ask anyone to sit with discomfort or reckon with who actually lives here, who actually loves this place, who actually belongs. And in the face of what unfolded on that field, those calls didn't feel powerful or protective. They felt small, shrinking, almost embarrassed by the scale, confidence, and beauty of what was actually offered. So instead of shrinking to meet that fear, he stood taller. He didn't answer ugliness with rage. He answered it with beauty, with culture, with history, with a love so vast and so specific it made the smallness of the backlash impossible to miss. So on one of the loudest, most public stages in the world, he said the opposite of what fear keeps demanding. We belong together, not as copies of one another, not as watered down versions of ourselves, but as we are, rooted, complicated, carrying our languages and our griefs and our celebrations in the same body. He wasn't preaching law or policy. He was showing something older than politics, right? Belonging, showing that culture is not a weapon, that identity is not an apology, that beauty, when it grows from land and language and memory and survival, still has the power to pull people toward one another instead of tearing them apart. And when those flags rose, the Puerto Rican flag, the flags of nations across the Americas alongside the American flag, it didn't feel like pageantry. It felt like a quiet declaration, a steady insistence that the story of this place is larger than exclusion and richer than fear. That America is not a single face or a single tongue, but a whole chorus of them singing over and around each other, sometimes dissonant, still somehow forming a song. And that's why I cried, because it wasn't just a show, it was a reminder that love still rises, that connection still matters, that no matter how loud hate gets, it is not the strongest force in the room. Love is stronger than hate. And in a world so full of fracture and noise, that truth keeps rising, like sugarcane in the sun, like the song of the coqui at night, and like a heartbeat that refuses to go silent. You guys have an awesome day.